All right. Welcome to another edition
Ronnie
of
Rich.
Neil News Network. I haven't been
What?
here in a while,
Gotta be Republican, right, Ronnie?
and in case you're wondering, you're like, "Hey, Neil, you're some guy. You live in New York. You work for the news business. Why are you wearing a cowboy hat? Is that a costume?" Well, it's actually in solidarity with Kristi Noem, who I guess grew up on a ranch, still lives on a ranch. She's the governor of North Dakota, South Dakota. But anyway, now she's Trump's Department of Homeland Security person. And she went to the border with some border guards who were on horses, and she was on a horse, and she was wearing a Western shirt and wearing a cowboy hat. And the media, the left wing media, was saying she was cosplaying or it was a costume. Now, for me, I did grow up in Texas, so it's not totally a costume, but pretty much as a New Yorker to wear a cowboy hat around, it is a bit of a costume. But I am doing it in solidarity with Kristi Noem, and also not for nothing. It just that story, and this is not the topic of today's thing. That story is such an example of just the out of touch left wing coastal media. I've lived in Texas. I've lived even in California. If you're in California, especially out in the desert or somewhere rural, if you're in Texas, if you're in North Dakota, if you're in anywhere that's kind of rural, like wearing a cowboy hat is not a costume. It's like this something that people do. It's only a costume if you live in New York City, and then you put it on once a year when you dress up as a cowboy for Halloween, which is kind of my default costume. But anyway, yeah, hey, let's talk about. We're 2 weeks into President Trump. He's had some big wins, to say the least. So let's just go through some of the facts, some of the wins that we've seen these last couple of weeks. So, most obviously on the border, of which we were just speaking about with Kristi Noem, Donald Trump did declare that the border was a national emergency. He did deploy the U.S. military there in conjunction with the Border Patrol that is loving Trump. He ended the catch and release program, which was when an illegal alien would come into America, they would catch them and then maybe get some ID or something off of them, maybe some biometric, but then just release them, and not just release them back into Mexico, but release them into America. So he got rid of that. And then he reinstated the Remain in Mexico policy, which means even if you're trying to come here under asylum, then you could just wait. You could wait it out in Mexico. You don't get to come hang out in America for 5 or 6 or 7 years, just with a cell phone and maybe some sort of monitor. And then wait for your court date here. But of course, while you're here, you get a free cell phone. In many places, you get free housing, you get free everything. Your children get free school. All of this while you're waiting, and you're not even approved to come into America. So Trump got rid of that. Anyway, the point is that he did all that, and border crossings 2 weeks in are down 95%. He also used, this is pretty cool. You guys know this, but it's just kind of nice to make to sit back and enjoy some of these wins. So Trump also used the threat of tariffs to get Mexico and actually, and Canada's leaders to do something about the border. So with Mexico, he got President Sheinbaum, I believe it's pronounced, but the president of Mexico, he got her to put 10, besides agreeing with the Remain in Mexico policy, he got her to put 10,000 Mexican troops on their side of the border to stop people from crossing into America. Also, Trump has resumed the construction of the border wall. Colombia's president, who first was not taking back people that we were deporting over there, is now not only accepting them, but he's sending his personal presidential jet to America to fill up full of Colombian illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, and take them back home. He's also restoring law and order in a lot of the chaos. He's labeled the drug cartels as a foreign terrorist organization. So that means that just like the way, like normally we can't take action in Mexico, we can't take action as a country into any other country because they're a sovereign country. But once you label a group of foreign terrorist organization, like we label ISIS that, then if ISIS is in Pakistan, as Obama would say, Pakistan, then we can actually take action because it's just a different thing. But anyway, cartels. Trump hasn't done anything, but cartels are now foreign terrorist organizations. So, what else is he doing? Oh yeah, he's and then he's also, besides just generally deporting, I just want to be more specific. He is deporting criminal illegal aliens. So if you're a criminal and you're in America, you're a criminal above and beyond breaking immigration law, then you're top to be deported. Now, how many illegal aliens have criminal records, either in or somehow dealing with law enforcement? We don't know, but I know JD Vance says about 1 million. So 1 million of the 50 million are criminal illegal aliens. Plus, just also sort of strengthening that, if you get caught for a crime and you're an illegal alien, then you also get deported. I'm sorry, if you're, the first point was if you're an illegal alien criminal. Second thing is, if you get arrested for committing a crime while you're here already as an illegal alien, you get deported. That was due to a law that was passed that Trump signed called the Laken-Riley Act. And the Laken-Riley Act is named after a Georgia woman who was killed by an illegal alien that was in Georgia illegally, had been deported, snuck back over again, was here illegally again, had been picked up and released by Biden's law enforcement, and then went on to kill Laken-Riley. So none of this shows signs of slowing down. Now, on the left, they're crying doom and gloom, asking, oh no, who will pick our crops? Who will clean our homes? Who will work in restaurants? Who will clean our toilets? I forget her name, but Ozzy Osbourne's daughter once said. Well, first of all, if that's all you think of what Latino or immigrants are, that's sort of on you. But the answer to that question is, who will do all these things are Americans. They will do it if there wasn't illegal aliens here willing to work for pennies on the dollar for every entry-level and manual labor job or form of employment. So to your average elite liberal, yeah, illegal aliens are nothing more than cheap source of labor. They're a permanent underclass that they hope to eventually groom and grift with our money into being future Democrat voters, and to otherwise just sort of using for their personal quality of life increase. So that system is a net win for the Democrat Party, but is a loss for decent Americans writ large, especially the working class and undereducated. I know when I was 18 or so, I didn't have a high, I dropped out of high school when I was 18. I went back later, but I dropped out. So then around 18 or so, and my parents, I was supporting myself. So I got a job working construction. And actually before that, I had been working in a restaurant, but I worked as a laborer in construction, and I made I don't know what, a long time ago, but I think I made $8 an hour, which was a lot since minimum wage was maybe $3.85 or something. I don't know, but it wasn't much. And also I worked construction, and I worked with, it was a mix of rural white guys and black guys from the inner city in DC. So all of a sudden I saw there was this whole group, this whole class of people where education didn't matter, resume didn't matter, none of it mattered. All that mattered, if you want to be hired as a carpenter or a drywall mechanic or as a plasterer or a painter, any of this stuff, is could you do the job well? I mean, we literally had guys that, or at least one guy that was illiterate. I remember I went to work one day and I was like, oh, this guy Bear, where's Bear? And oh yeah, he killed someone over the weekend. What? But the point is, it didn't matter if you had a criminal record, didn't matter how smart you were. If you could do the job, you could make a decent living, and you could make a living. And these were Americans, and you could make, I think way back when in the 80s, you could make $16 an hour, which is probably equivalent to almost $40 or $50 an hour now. So there were guys that had children and a wife, and the wife stayed at home. You could do that on one salary, working construction, working as a painter, working any of those trades. And I do remember when Latinos started, and a lot of them were illegal, started coming in, they were really good workers, and they started off as laborers, at the bottom rung, and they sort of worked their way up. But nobody really thought twice about it. It wasn't really an issue. But slowly over time, the amount of money that an American gets for that kind of work, for labor, manual work, is about half. And that's 100% a direct result of the illegal aliens undercutting the American market. And same goes for when I was in high school. I used to do, or even younger, grade school. I used to go around the neighborhood and I would mow lawns. It was a common job. My brothers did that after me. That was a common job, landscaping for young kids. So we might not have been as reliable as, like somebody with a company that was an illegal alien, but it was a first job. And the same with being a busboy at a restaurant. That was something you could do. Those were entry level jobs. But now I don't really see any young American people doing that sort of thing. It's all illegal aliens. So you don't even really hear of people working as, like kids, like in high school, having jobs after school or anything like that. So yeah, I do think it does really harm people. Now, since then, I went on, I went back to school, I got a degree, I work in something that my particular job, working as a writer for cable TV news, I don't really have to, I'm not competing with illegal aliens, but who is harmed by this? People without high school diplomas, are people with only a high school diploma, people that want to work in the restaurant trades, people that want to work in construction, all that stuff. Now their market is just flooded and labor has become cheap. So anyway, so that's getting rid of illegal aliens will help Americans, even though it may harm elite Democrats. So anyway, so yeah, so as these deportations continue, and I know some stuff, but I can't figure out every step of what will happen. But here's my guess. I'm optimistic. I say that the effect of mass deportations for the average American is going to be positive. Rents, all of a sudden you get rid of 2 or 3 million or 4 million illegal aliens. Most of them are renters. It's harder for them to own a home. So rent prices, just supply and demand, rent prices are going to crater. So that's good for Americans. It might be bad for Chamber of Commerce type, the moneyed Republicans or landlords. I don't hate landlords, but rents will go down. Food prices and insurance will also go down. Air travel will get cheaper. Education, schools that don't have to struggle with millions. I know of illegal alien children will thrive. I know in Los Angeles, where I used to live, 25%, 1 in 4 children is an illegal alien in the public school system. So, I guess if we're going to allow illegal aliens here, then yeah, we allow their kids into school, but really they shouldn't be here. So I think school will get better. So yeah, so with 50 million illegal aliens, getting rid of many of them will help. Now, a little off track. We're supposed to be talking about the benefits of Trump's first 2 weeks, which we will get to. But also one area where Trump could improve, he hasn't really taken a step yet, is I'd like to see us go after the people that employ illegal aliens too. But, that's maybe that's another topic. But hey, last thing on the border, and I think this is great on Trump. Trump has said it's not just about stopping the illegal aliens, it's about stopping the fentanyl that crosses the border, the cartels and all the other drugs. But let's just talk about fentanyl. So first of all, fentanyl over the 4 years of Joe Biden has killed 400,000 people, over 400,000 people. So 400,000 people, what is that? About 65,000 died in Vietnam. So what is that? About more than 6 Vietnams worth of Americans killed, including children. So fentanyl is killing 100,000 people or so a year, or at least up until Trump took some action. So yeah, I think it's a real problem. So all this, all this stuff, all this complaining about even the trade war. Trump threatened the trade tariffs, and Mexico caved right away, and Canada did too. But even if they hadn't, even if I have to pay an extra $1 for an avocado, I don't mind. I will do it. Tell it to, if you know anyone who died of a fentanyl overdose or their child died, tell them, oh, I don't want to pay an extra $1. See how far that goes. So yeah, I'm going to stick with, I'm pretty libertarian. If you want to do drugs to some degree, not necessarily the government's business, but fentanyl is more than just getting high. It's a real problem. People are dying. The precursors are from China. They're being sent to Mexico. The cartels are making them into fentanyl and shipping them over, and to a lesser degree in. Okay. All right. So yeah. Moving on, let's talk about the economy and what drives the economy, energy. Now, President Trump has declared a national energy emergency. He killed Joe Biden's radical electric vehicle mandate. He's begun ending government funding in support of the climate hoax. I mean, hey, you guys can believe the climate hoax if you want. I know most of my people that watch this are not climate hoaxers, climate doomers. But I'll just say this real quick. First of all, I don't think there's a climate crisis, but climate crisis. I don't think there's global warming. But even if there is it that bad? I would say no. But let's say it exists, and let's say it really is that bad. Is it solvable? Yeah, I would say okay. Yeah, then how do you solve it? I mean, we could solve it tomorrow if it really were a problem, just by building nuclear. That's assuming we don't invent anything else. We just use excuse me, we just build some nuclear plants, then we have solved it. So all of this green new scam, electric vehicle mandates, all that nonsense, it's all just a way to launder money back to the Democrats. Because all of this stuff, all of the solutions cost hundreds of millions of dollars or trillions of dollars when you spread it out over the planet. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time, but yeah, global warming scam, global green new scam is a hoax. So, if you're foolish enough to believe in it, go for it. But Trump is not doing it. So that's a win. Wall Street is booming. AI investment have skyrocketed to $500 billion. There's 20 billion more being invested in U.S. data centers across the country. I won't talk about AI too much other than, have you tried it? If you haven't tried it on your phone, I use Perplexity. And I use, Chat GPT, but now you can just talk to it. So it's almost seductive in the sense of, I know with, Chat GPT or one of them, they have different voices. And I picked this one voice. It's like a raspy Winona Ryder kind of voice. And she's all sassy when she talks to me. And so I'll just ask, a question, what, how many, I don't know what I'd ask, what year was Ronald Reagan born or something? And then this little sassy voice will tell me, but really it can do anything. But anyway, that's another story. But yeah, there's a big AI revolution. I have mixed feelings about AI, but it looks like we're stuck with it. So we might as well be leading the world in it. Trump's good on that. Sort of tied into that, Trump's good for crypto, which, invest as you will. But I also think that's the way of the future. So Trump is leading, helping America lead to become the, quote, Bitcoin capital of the planet. Meanwhile, in D.C., I think the biggest problem we have is the swamp, the entrenched administrative state that just sort of runs things and just sort of feeds money back into itself, feeds power back into itself. It doesn't really advance anything in America's interest, but just harms America. And I said, even the first time, if Trump does nothing else but just wake America up to the fact that we have a deep state, that we have a swamp, and he wakes America up to the fact that our media cannot be trusted, then that's a win. But Trump is doing more than that. So he is actually dismantling the deep state. He signed more than 45 executive orders just, in his first 2 weeks, disempowering and reducing the size of government. When has government ever reduced its own size? I know Ronald Reagan or somebody at the Reagan administration used to say, I want to make government, maybe it's Grover Norquist or Art Laffer, but one of those guys said, they wanted to shrink government to the size, till it was small enough to fit in a bathtub and they could drown in there. So I'm not so far from that. Racist, sort of hand in hand, a tool of the deep state is DEI. So that has been purged from the federal government. Our military and our lazy federal workers that work from home, they've been ordered back to the office or back to the Pentagon, wherever. That's a good thing. I know that as of now, I think 40,000 federal workers have been offered a payoff just to leave. It's a little bit hard to fire a federal worker sometimes. There's a process. So they're sort of going through a process. And speaking of the military, Trump has also banned transgenders from the military, which well, two things. One, if you're a grown man or a grown woman and you want to pretend to be a different sex, that's fine. I don't care. If you're a man, you want to wear a dress, you do you. If you're a woman and you want to ingest testosterone and grow a beard, go for it. All of that is your thing. I mean, as long as you stay away from the children, it's a little. But I do think it's a little bit of a mental illness to honestly, for those that honestly believe that they are a different sex, just as if somebody said, "Oh, well, I'm a human, but I believe myself to be a horse." I'm like, okay, you could do it, but don't go along with it. So anyway, the reason it's good to get those individuals out of the military is it takes years of therapy and medical procedures that can cost up to $100,000 to go through that. So if you want to do that, your 4 years or whatever, 10 years, but your 4 years in the military, probably not the time to do it. Like if you want to change genders, do it, but just don't do it while you're in the military. That's probably not the time and the place if our goal as a military is to have the best fighting force on the planet. So that's another win. The corrupt USAID, which is the United States Agency for International Development, has been shut down. And real quickly, I know a little bit about this. When I was young, my father worked for USAID for a little bit. He was also an ambassador in West Africa. So I saw USAID stuff working. So USAID sort of has a few missions. One, their official mission is just to provide aid and programs to foreign countries and help them. Now, of course, they do a lot of pass-throughs and money laundering and color guard and regime change and all kinds of stuff. So one, they're wasting money there. There's a lot of corruption. That's one thing. But on the very basic level of what they even officially do, besides some of it being silly, like millions of dollars being spent on a transgender opera, funding a transgender opera in Peru. Why is our government doing that? But even their good projects, a lot of them they don't really do anything. I'll give you a couple of examples. Like I know in Sudan, they opened a water desalination plant. So they could pump in water from the nearest ocean and then desalinate it. But it's a very complicated business to set up a desalination plant. But basically, they would build this plant. They'd have the engineers running it. It was basically a jobs program for the contractors and the people running it. And then once it was up and running, they just leave. Job's over. Now, the local people, I mean, like in a pretty backward place like Sudan, they can't maintain that. So then it just gets abandoned and doesn't do anything. Meanwhile, the USAID workers are all richer by hundreds of thousands of dollars, or the contractors by millions. Nothing's been accomplished, and they move on to do the next thing. The other problem with USAID, which is the same problem the United Nations has, let's say the USAID comes into a country and they set up something. They set up a chicken egg farm to teach locals how to have a chicken farm. Or they set up like a medical, something for in case there's a typhoid outbreak. They set up a warehouse full of medicine. Now, and those are two real examples that I saw. In those cases, the local ministers, the corrupt local officials will just come in and steal all the medicine or steal chickens or whatnot, farm equipment. And they just take it. Now, the USAID in a foreign country has no authority. There's no punishment because they get paid whether or not the stuff works anyway. Whether or not the chicken farm is ultimately successful, whether or not the medicine is stolen, which did happen once, and there was an outbreak, and there's just no medicine. But there's no punishment for that sort of thing. So the locals all know it. They're like, yeah, come on, do whatever program. They'll steal some for themselves. The locals still get paid, and very little good is done by USAID. Also, another agency that's rightfully been critiqued a lot lately is the CIA. So in an attempt to shrink it, and get it back to its original mission, which is not its current mission of regime change, money laundering, and domestic spying. The administration has offered a buyout to every single employee who works there. And if you resign, you can get paid through September and full benefits and all that stuff. So really, it's just like I said, it's hard to fire a bunch of federal workers at the CIA, but you can offer them this buyout. You get rid of, like I said, I think we're down 40,000, and that's just in a few days. The CIA thing expires tomorrow at midnight, but I bet you we'll get another 10 or 20,000. Already, we're down, I think, 2% of the federal workforce because of all of these things. Now, 2% doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot when you consider the whole force is a few million. All right. So, and then as far as all of this stuff that I'm going on and on and on about with government being corrupt, you're like, we know that. We know the CIA is no good. We know the CIA does color guard and regime change and money laundering and pass through. And we know Zelensky just said that $42 billion of the money that we gave to Ukraine, he just never got, and nobody knows where it is. So we always know that they're bad eggs. We know that the DC uses NGOs funded by the USAID, and it's just a way. And then those groups pay themselves, and then they donate to Democrats and to Republicans. So we all know it's a big swamp. And to that, I say, we know that, a lot of us. But I think your average normie, they don't really know that. So this phase of the operation is really just here to wake, I think to wake a lot of people up, wake up the normies. And from what I can tell, I think they are, and that's a good thing. So lastly, or not lastly, but near lastly, the Treasury is being audited, billions in fraud and waste discovered there. A lot of it is just, I don't know, billions were just billions of scam, but they found out that for a number of years, every request for payment that was sent to the Treasury, the accountants there approved. So there were 0%, if this is true, but 0% refusal rate. So anything that you sent in just got approved. So now they're actually looking at it and then saying, do people get? So also, let's not forget about Panama and Greenland. When I guess my whole life, I was gonna say when I grew up, but basically my whole life, like America has been an empire or a big country, but we never really grown or expanded. And then we seem to be getting smaller as far as influence and ethics and all kinds of stuff. We're only bigger in taxes and whatnot. But there was a point when America was expanding in a good way. Like certainly Russia was a good acquisition. Hawaii was a good acquisition. Puerto Rico, U.S. Virgin Islands, whatnot. So just this idea that we can never expand or that people wouldn't want to be part of us was sort of set in stone. And Trump just said, why? Well, you don't have to think that way. So is he going to take over Greenland by force? No. But Greenland has, I believe, 55,000 people. So if they want to join us to be part of the U.S., that's good. Even if they don't want to join us, but they want to allow us to, just have military bases there to keep China or Russia from, having access to the resources and whatnot there. And that's a good thing. And also, like I said, there's 55,000 people. Let's say they want to join us, or they're kind of on the fence. I mean, I don't know how this would work, but if we gave every single person in Greenland $1 million, and then just gave the country, and then promised a bunch of development, like they'd probably go for it. We'd go for it. Denmark it's kind of their, there's sort of the I don't know what the word is, but almost a colonizer state. So I don't know, give Denmark a couple $100 million too, just to keep them happy. And then we have Greenland. How cool would that be? And even if it doesn't happen, we gain influence in the arena. And also it's just a good way to think. And then for Panama, China had pretty much taken over that canal. So I don't think Trump's going to go in there, but Panama has already said that they are not dealing with China anymore. And who knows what will happen there. But that's another win for Trump. The guy cannot keep from winning. Also, when it comes to free speech and transparency, President Trump took 12 times more press questions in these last he took more press questions, 12 times more press questions. Somebody just did the math, but he did 12 times more questions in just 1 week than Joe Biden did in a whole year. He reinstated 440 banned or silenced journalists to the press room. He ended all sorts of government censorship. And here's probably my favorite one. And this is really the last one. He did release the J6 hostages, 1,500 people that were in jail or had spent time in jail, most of which were just trespassers. So we all saw what BLM did. BLM murder riots, 32 people killed, went on for 10 months, billions of dollars in damage. And those people, there are a couple of arrests, but basically they all got a pass. George Floyd, sad story, but he died of an overdose, but he was called a saint by the left. Was there anyone violent on January 6, 2021? Yeah, probably. Yeah, there were. But pretty much the only person killed was one MAGA supporter, whose name I'm spacing at the moment, but I know, who was shot in the neck. She was, and once again, the left has to make everything about race. So she was a white woman shot by a black cop in the neck without warning for the crime of trespassing. And they didn't even have an investigation into that guy, Michael Byrd, the cop that shot her in the neck, point blank, because she was trespassing. That guy, no investigation at all. And that guy had support. That guy had publicly supported a racist hate movement, BLM. So meanwhile, Derek Chauvin was simply present at the moment that George Floyd died of a drug overdose, and he's spending 22 years in jail. So anyway, the January 6 people, yeah, they deserve to go free. Is there anyone that should have got some? Yeah, punished, sure. But everyone that did any actual violence did already spend years in jail. And if all you did was bonk a cop on the head with, a flagpole, or, pushed a cop, which you shouldn't do, don't push cops, then spending a couple of years in jail is fine. So yeah, you should get out. And also they said, oh, but this or that many people are guilty. I also just want to point out that just because you said you're guilty, a lot of people said they were guilty as part of a plea deal, but they were not that guilty anyway. Considering that the DC court that prosecuted them, you had no shot. They had a 100% prosecution rate. So when a court prosecutes over 1,000 people and has a 100% prosecution rate, then you could say, well, those are the best lawyers in the world, or you could say it's sort of a rigged DC court. So it was the right thing to do, even if you accidentally freed someone that was violent for a moment or two. And also, Trump did fire the January 6th prosecutors that seem to take glee in over prosecuting these people, including like grandmas. There was one grandma who was 67-year-old grandma with cancer, and they sent her to jail. For trespassing. Somebody I know, who's just a doctor, Dr. Simone Gold. She was there at the protests. The doors were open. Cops were letting people go in. She went in to use the bathroom. You're a woman. It's harder to use the bathroom. You can't just go against the wall. She went in there, used it, and she got sentenced to a month in jail. It's crazy. So, and Trump promised he would do that. So promises made, promises kept. So to wrap up, these 2 weeks have been win after win after win after win after win after win after win for the president with no end in sight. I was thinking coming into this, on day one of this second Trump presidency, I was optimistic, but I thought, you know what? Even if all he does is keep Kamala out of the White House and he appoints a Supreme Court justice or two, that'd be a win. But he has exceeded mine and I think just about every patriotic American's expectations. So at this rate, if he keeps doing this, and also, holy cow, where does he get the energy to do this? This is cuckoo bananas. He's 80. I don't know. How old is Trump? Whatever he is, he does stuff all day long. Then he meets with Netanyahu. It's unbelievable. So yeah. And this Gaza stuff, I think, is pretty good. We'll see how it goes. But once again, he thinks outside the box. Why not, instead of just having peace in the Middle East, why not turn Gaza into, as he said, like the Middle East Mediterranean? Like, why not just say, oh, we got to have peace? Why not make it a great place for them that they want to live there, that they don't want to attack Israel? So at this rate, he could go down as the greatest president of our lifetime, and I am including Reagan. After 2 weeks, we are about to enter possibly a new golden age. We might even see his face on Mount Rushmore before we're all dead, if we live long enough. So anyway, that's my quick list of Trump achievements. If I left anything off, please let me know. So leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know if I forgot anything. I'm going to start doing these again. I took a break. I was just so busy and sort of getting really just busy with work because all this election stuff. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to try to do these more. If there's anything you want me to cover, I'm glad to do it. That's all. This is Neil News Network. Good day.